Hi, this is Jillian from Design Student Savvy, and today we're going to learn how to create openings for our windows and doors in our 2D plan, and also how to draw two-dimensional symbols to represent those windows and doors. We're also going to be covering the following: creating components, using layers to control visibility of elements, how to copy and paste in place, copying elements using the Move tool, using the Rotate tool, using the Divide command, and using the flip along command. If you'd like to follow along with this tutorial, follow the link in the video notes to download the SketchUp model we'll be working from. Now let's go ahead and get started. I have my SketchUp model open, and you can see that I'm viewing it in parallel projection mode from the top down. If your model isn't oriented in this view, go to Camera, Standard Views, Top, and then make sure Parallel Projection is checked. That will get you this nice flat two-dimensional view. You can also see that we already have our exterior walls and our interior walls, which we completed in the last tutorial, and we can still see our PDF floor plan underneath those walls. Now, before we go about cutting any openings in these walls, we're going to make copies of both the exterior and the interior walls and put them on a separate layer. So if your layers window isn't open, go ahead and open that now by going to Window, Layers, and making sure that's checked. And you can also make entity info visible as well, because we're going to be using that too. Make a new layer called Plan 2D. And go ahead and make that layer the active layer. Then click on your exterior wall group and go to Edit, Copy, and then go to Edit, Paste in Place. Now you can see after I paste in place, I still have a copy of the walls selected, and it doesn't matter if it's the original or the new copy, but we're going to go up to Entity Info and we're going to change the layer to our new layer, Plan 2D, and we're going to change the name from Exterior to Exterior Walls, Copy. And then we're going to click on the Interior Walls group, and we are going to do the same thing. So Edit, Copy, Paste in Place. It's still selected. Come up to Layer in the Entity Info window, click Plan 2D, and then change the name to Interior Walls, Copy. So now we have a copy of both our interior and our exterior walls on the Plan 2D layer. And so we will uncheck the check mark under Visible next to the Walls Exterior layer and the Walls Interior layer. And because we activated our Plan 2D layer by clicking the radio button next to it, anything we draw from this point forward will be drawn on the Plan 2D layer. Okay, now zoom in on your front door and double click the exterior wall group until it opens, and you can tell that the group is open because you'll be able to click on the face of the exterior wall and see the blue dots. And we're going to be using guides to establish the locations of the openings as well as the measurements or the dimensions from our two-dimensional plan that we can see on the PDF. So go ahead and click on your tape measure tool, click on the edge of this closet, which is still available to us even though it's not in the current group. Click on that with the tape measure, drag to the right, and type 18.5 inches. And that will set the left edge of our front door. Click on the new guideline that you just made and drag to the right and type 36 inches and hit Enter, and that will set the right edge of the front door. Now, hit your L key to activate the line tool, or you can click the pencil in the toolbar, and you're going to segment the wall by drawing lines at the intersections of those guidelines and that wall. And now you can see that we have a segment in our wall where the door is, and so if you hit your spacebar to activate the selection tool, you can click on each of those wall segments, line segments, and delete them. And now we have an opening for our front door. Now let's go ahead and do this window to the right. So tape measure again, click on the guideline, drag to the right 38.5 inches and hit Enter. Click on your new guideline, drag to the right 90 inches and hit Enter. L to activate the line tool. Create segments with your line tool by tracing over the guidelines. Hit E for the eraser tool and click on the top and bottom of the wall. Great, now let's go over to our left window in our dining room, and we're going to do the same thing. Click on the tape measure, click on the outside edge of this exterior wall, drag to the right 21 inches, click on the new guideline, drag to the right 90 inches, L, E, and there you go. We have the openings for our two windows on the front wall of the house as well as our front door. Now to keep things from getting too confusing, go ahead and delete those guides. Now we can use the same technique to create the rest of our exterior openings. So I'm just going to continue here in the dining area and kitchen, starting with the sliding door, moving up to the window. Don't be afraid to zoom in and zoom out to make it easier to see what you're doing. And then I'll come up here from the top and establish a guideline for the top edge of that window in the bedroom and the bottom edge. And you can actually see on this guideline, these two guidelines, the window in the other bedroom matches up perfectly, so we don't even need to draw new guidelines for that. We will just use the same ones. So I'm going to segment and erase, segment and erase, kitchen window, we'll segment and erase, and finally our sliding door, segment the walls and erase those interior line segments, and then just go ahead and delete the guides. And now you can see, we'll click outside to delete or close that group, and you can see now we have all of the openings for our windows and our front door. Now that we've created the openings for our exterior windows and front door, we're going to move into the interior. So double click on any interior wall, and then remember we have two nested groups here, and we're going to be cutting the openings in this group, not the fireplace group. So go ahead and double click on that one again and just click on the face to make sure that it's open. We're going to start with the bedroom closets. Now, on the interior walls, I haven't dimensioned all of the openings. So we're going to need to use the PDF to estimate. And this is where the real beauty of drawing on top of a scaled PDF or other image comes into play. Oftentimes we don't have all the dimensions we need, but by tracing over them and using our best guess, we can draw something that is pretty close to what's there in real life. So go ahead and click on the tape measure tool, and I'm going to click on this top edge of the closet, and I'm going to drag down, and I'm going to assume this door is centered on the wall. So I'm going to click at the midpoint. You saw that blue dot pop up. And then I am going to drag up, and as I drag up, I can see that that edge of the door in the PDF is about 30 inches from the center. So that leads me to believe it's a 60-inch door. I always round up to the closest number, the closest even number for windows and doors, because it's very rare that we're going to have an architect specify a 55-inch door or a 67-inch door. Doors and windows come in standard widths, and so I try to get as close as possible to one of those standard widths. So I'm assuming that this is a 60-inch door. So I'm going to type 30 to set that guideline, and 30 for the bottom. And then same as I did with the exterior, use the line tool to segment and then erase the segments within the opening. And I'm going to go ahead, even though this door doesn't look like it's exactly lined up on the other bedroom, I'm going to assume that they are located in the same place and create that opening as well using the same guidelines. Go ahead and delete those guides since we don't need them anymore. And let's move on to our hall bath door. Now in this case, I'm going to assume that my door is a nice round even number of inches from the wall in the bathroom. So you can see if I click on that interior edge of the wall for the bathroom and I start dragging towards the door, it's about 3 inches. That's what I'm going to go with for the left edge. And then I'll click on that guideline again, draw to the other side of the door, and you can see it's about 30 inches, and that is a standard door width, so I'm going to go with 30 inches. Great, and just go ahead and delete those guides since we don't need those anymore. And now we have both our closet doors drawn and the opening to our hall bath. Now, if you're looking at this, you can see I've made a few mistakes here, and that happens. And this wall segment should not be here. So I'm going to go ahead and draw lines on either side of that wall segment. Drawing those lines, it closes this loop. Okay, so when a loop isn't closed, you won't be able to have a face. A face only occurs when there is a closed loop, and so by drawing that line segment closing off each side of that wall, I can go ahead and erase that wall. And now you can see that that wall segment is gone and I still have a gray face. We're going to go ahead and do the same thing on this wall in the master bathroom because it doesn't belong there either. And great, now both of those are gone. Now there's one more little adjustment I want to make. Another error I made when I was drawing this that I didn't quite catch is that this wall segment here is only 30 inches, and that isn't big enough to have a 30-inch door with casings for our bedrooms. And I would like to have 30-inch doors there because that's pretty standard. 32 would be even better. So I am going to activate my selection tool, and I'm going to draw a box from left to right, that's very important, over this wall segment for the hall bathroom. And you can see now those lines are all selected. I'm going to activate my move tool, click on a portion of that wall. It doesn't matter if you click on an endpoint or you click on a wall segment or even the face. And I am going to drag up, see how I have the green line that tells me I'm snapped to the green axis, which tells me I'm dragging perfectly straight. And as I drag up, I am going to type in 6 inches to move that wall up 6 inches. So you can see it's very easy to move a wall segment. Now I have 36 inches from this point to this point for the doors for my bedrooms. So let's continue adding the openings for our interior doors. Click on the tape measure. Let's start at the bottom edge of the bedrooms and drag up 3 inches to set the bottom edge of those doors. And then, like I said, I wanted a 30-inch door opening, so I'll create a second guideline that's 30 inches from the first one. Activate my line tool. And then my eraser tool. Now I have the openings for those doors. Delete the guides. Let's do these 2 closets, which conveniently line up with each other. So I'm going to start with the center again here, and looks like they're 60 inches again. And we will do this opening. This is a cased opening from the hallway into the living room. And it's not quite centered in the PDF, and I'm going to center it in our model. And I think it's probably about 42 inches wide. Then moving on, we have another cased opening leading from the living area to the dining area. And you can see as I'm going along, I'm just estimating and rounding up to whole numbers as close as I can on the PDF. You know, it's pretty much impossible to scale the PDF absolutely perfectly, so it might look a little off at times. Don't worry about that. Just do the best you can. For anything critical like a kitchen or a bathroom, you're going to be verifying field dimensions anyway, whether this is a new build or it is a existing home. You'll always be going back and checking to make sure in cases like kitchens and bathrooms or closet systems, any kind of built element, and even for furniture, if it's a really tight space and you just need to make absolute sure that everything fits. So go ahead and delete those guides, and I think the only one I have left to do is this door into the master bathroom. And I close my group because we are finished creating the openings for the interior doors. So I clicked outside of the group twice and that closed everything up. And now you can see we have all of our openings, both exterior and interior. So we're ready to go ahead and start drawing our two-dimensional symbols. We're going to start by drawing the symbol for this 90-inch window down in the dining area. So go ahead and zoom in on that window opening and click on your rectangle tool or hit R to activate the rectangle tool and draw a rectangle from the top left point of that opening to the bottom right point. Now you have a rectangle covering the opening. We're going to draw rectangles on either side, 1 inch by 6 inch, to represent the frame of the window. So start on the left and you're going to click over and type 6, 1, and that will give you a rectangle that is exactly 6 inches by 1 inch. And then go ahead on the other side and type 6, 1. Now you have one on the right side. And now we're going to add the divisors because this is a triple window. And to do that, we're going to click on the top edge, right click on it, and select the divide tool. And you can see that these red dots appear, and that tells me how many segments I'm going to divide this line into. I can either type 3 and hit enter, or I can just click when I see 3 segments. And now if I click on this line, you will see it is divided into 3 segments and is no longer one solid line. We're going to set guides at each of those endpoints of the line segments. And then we're going to make the dividers, I think 2 inches by 6 inches. So we will set a guide 1 inch on either side of those original guides, and then hit R for rectangle and draw rectangles to represent the dividers, and then delete the guides. And now if I click on these segments for the windows, you can see up in entity info, the left is 28 and 5/16, the middle is 27 and 5/16, and the right is 28 and 5/16. So I'm just going to adjust them so they're even. We have an inch difference between the middle and the outside. So we're going to left select over one of the dividers, activate our move key by hitting M, and drag to the right 0.333 inches. And then we'll go ahead on the left side and do the same thing, 0.333 inches. And now if we click on those, we will see that each of them is 28 inches exactly. So we have 3 windows that are each 28 inches. Let's go ahead and create rectangles for the glass. I'm going to activate the tape measure and set a guide at the center of the window. And then using my line tool, I am going to draw a rectangle that is a 1/2 inch thick in the center. And I'm coming down from the middle instead of going up because I want a slightly deeper sill on the inside. So I'll just continue doing that on the other 2 windows. And now you can see I have my frame, my dividers, and my glass, and all that's left to do is delete the faces that were covering the sill and delete our guides, and there's our window. Now, I'm going to instead of turning this window into a group, I'm going to turn it into a component. The difference between groups and components is very important. A group is simply a container that holds faces and edges, and like you saw with our interior walls, you can nest groups. A component is like a group, except you can reuse the same component multiple times, and if you make changes to to any of the components, all of them will change. So I am going to drag a left selection box over everything representing my window, and then I'm going to right click on it, and instead of saying make group, I'm going to make a component. And this box should pop up asking you what you want to name the component. I'm going to name it window 90 for what it is plus the width. And then I am just going to say create. And now that window is a component and I can reuse it. And if I need to make any changes to it, the changes will take place in every instance of that component. The window in our living area is also 90 inches and a triple window, so I am just going to copy the window in my dining room by activating the Move key, hold down the Option button or the Alt button if you're on a PC, click on a corner of the window, zoom over to the right, and click on the same corner in the window on the right. And you will see now I have made a copy of that window. So we used the Move tool, holding down the Option key, clicked on a corner in the left window, and then clicked in the same corner in the right window to place the copy. Let's go ahead and use that same technique to create the window for our bedrooms. So zoom on up to the left bedroom, and we will start with our rectangles for the window and then for the frame. And then this is a double window, so I don't have to divide it, I can just use the midpoint. And then we'll come up 1 inch from either side of that midpoint, make a rectangle for the divider, delete those guides, set a guide for the glass, use our line tool to create the glass. The lines that represent the glass. See how, it wants to grab other points like the midpoint or that other edge. Make sure that you can see that green line so you know you're drawing perfectly straight. And now I'm going to turn this window also into a component. So I'm going to drag a left selection box around it. Oh, I forgot to delete my faces. Let me do that real quick. So draw a left selection box around it, right click and say make component. And this is a 48-inch window, so we'll call it window 48. And now I want to copy and paste this window over to the opening in the master bedroom. So I am going to use my Move tool, click on a corner while holding down the Alt or the Option button, drag over to the other side, and see I'm clicking on the same corner in the window on the opposite side. Now, because we just pulled this over, the larger sill is facing the exterior instead of facing the interior. So go ahead and right click and go down to flip along, and we're going to flip along the component's red axis. And you can see by doing that, it simply reflected the component along its own interior center based on the red axis. Okay, if we had selected the green axis, it would have flipped it from top to bottom instead of from left to right. So that's a quick way to make a mirror image of something. So now we have those windows, and our only window that's left is the one in the kitchen. So let's just go ahead and do that real quick. And this one is simple, it doesn't even have any dividers. Now another way we could do this glass is simply make a copy of that line segment and move it over a ½ inch. And delete those faces, delete the guide, And even though we're not going to be using this one again, I'm still going to make it a component and call it window 32. And there we go. There are all of our windows. Next, we're going to make the front door. So let's zoom in on our front door, and we're going to start by drawing a rectangle to represent the thickness of the door. So with your line tool, click on that top left corner of the door opening and drag straight up and type 36, because that is how wide the door is. Come over 1 inch, come down 36 inches, and over 1 inch. You also could have used the rectangle tool. And then turn that rectangle into a group. You can either use the left selection tool or you can triple click and say make group. And there is the rectangle representing our door thickness. Now we need to create the door swing. So I'm going to click on my circle tool, or C for circle. I'm going to click down at that top left corner, which is the hinge point, and drag up to the top of my door and click again. And that will create a circle. And next we need to segment this circle. So I'm going to use my line tool and just click from one side of the door opening to the other. And then I'm going to draw another line up from the bottom of the door thickness to the top. And that will segment our circle. And now you can see I can delete the segments of the circle that I don't need. And I'm going to delete those line segments that I just drew so as not to overcomplicate our component. And now I have the door swing. If you look at this, you can see that it looks kind of choppy. It's segmented, and actually if we click on that arc and look at the entity info, it will say that it has 6 segments. You can smooth that out. Try typing 10 in the segments window or the segments form box and hit enter. And you can see it will smooth it out a little bit because now it's 10 segments instead of 6. You can try hitting 20 and that will smooth it out even more. Then we will just do our left selection over the door, right click, say make component, and this is door 36. And there is our front door. So let's use the same technique on our doors into our hall, bath, and our bedrooms. And so let's start with a rectangle this time in the hall bathroom. Click on that top left corner and type 30,1 and then turn that into a group. And then C for circle, click in the bottom and drag to the top. L for line segment, click from left to right and then from bottom to top. Space bar for the select tool. Oh, it didn't work. Let's see, let's try that one again. There. And so we can click on that segment and delete it, delete the interior face, and our 2 line segments, smooth our arc. Sometimes you have to start with a smaller number and build your way up. And then left select over everything, make component, and this is going to be door 30. So you recall our bedroom doors are also 30 inches wide, so we are going to make a copy of the hallway bath door and move it over to the left bedroom, and then we're going to click on the rotate tool, and if you click on that corner point there and then click again up at the top of the door, it's going to pivot on that point, and if you drag it down you can see that it snaps to 90 degrees, or you can type 90 and hit enter. And now we want to make a copy of this door over to the master bedroom, so I am going to use the move key and hold down option and drag it over, and then I'm going to just right click on this and say flip along the green axis, and you can see it flipped along the green, and I just now have to reposition it. So very easily we created the doors for our hallway and our 2 bedrooms, and now we want to go ahead and make our bifold doors for our closets. So let's start with the entry closet, and we're going to start by drawing a rectangle that is 12 inches by 1 inch because it's a 24-inch opening. And we're going to turn that rectangle into a group. Click on the rotate tool. We are going to click on that corner point, drag up to the top of the door for our second click, and then drag it down, and as we're dragging, type 45. And then we are going to, you can also make copies using the rotate tool. So we're going to make a copy of this door segment using the rotate tool. So hold down your Option key or your Alt key, click on that corner, drag up to the top, and then you're going to drag to the left, and that will create a copy that looks like a mirror. Type 90 and hit enter, and then you can use your Move key and move it into place. And there is your bifold door for your 24-inch closet opening. And we'll make a component and call it door BF for bifold 24. So we will use the same technique up here on our closets. And let's start with a rectangle. These are 60 inches, remember, so we're going to have 4 segments that are 15 by 1. Make a group. Rotate it 45 degrees, and then hold down your Option key, and you're going to rotate it back 90 degrees. Move those guys into place. And then select both of them, hit your M for Move key, hold down Option, and drag to the other side of your door opening, and now you have both of your bifold doors. Drag a left selection box around both of those doors, right click and say Make Component, and this will be door BF 60. And then you can hit your Move key and just kind of pull this out and right click, flip along your green axis, flip along red axis, sorry. You want to flip it left to right, not top to bottom, and then you can just go ahead and move that into place on the door on the opposite side. And remember, our closet doors in our bedrooms are also 60 inches, so we can just make copies of the closet doors from the hallway and paste them up in our bedrooms. Holding down my Option key and moving those up to the bedroom. And now we have our bifold doors on our closets. So what's left? Our sliding door in our dining area. That's really simple. We are going to start with a rectangle, click on the midpoint of the wall, and drag up and type 30,1. It's a 60-inch opening again. Make a group of that rectangle, and then you're going to move it from the bottom left corner, hold down your Option key, and position that at the midpoint of the first one. And then we can turn that into a component. And now we have our sliding door. And last but not least, we have the pocket door into our master bathroom. Now, in order to create the pocket, we're going to have to edit this interior wall group. So double click on that wall and then double click on it again. Click on the face to make sure you can edit it. Activate your tape measure tool. Click on one edge of the wall and drag down to the midpoint. Now, we're going to create a box within the wall for the door to slide into. So activate your line tool and start at the intersection of the midpoint and drag up 1 inch, and then there's the end of that line segment, over 30 inches, down 2 inches, and then over 30 inches. And now you can see there's a rectangle within the face of our wall. We're going to delete the interior face and delete those 2 little line segments on the right. And now we have our pocket. Now click outside. Actually, before we close that group's still open. No, that's good. We want to close the group. So click outside of that group a couple times to close it. And now the group is closed. So you can see when I click on this again, the wall group is no longer open. And let me see, can I delete that guide? Yep. And now what we want to do is we're going to trace this opening for our symbol. And that way, if you want to use it again in another model, you have the symbol so that you can position it in the wall very easily. And actually, I wish I had kept that line, that guideline. So let me just add it back there, 3 inches, which is the middle of the wall. And then I'm going to use my line tool again, and it doesn't matter where I do this. I don't know, let's kind of go with the center of this line. You can see when I click on my pencil, there's the midpoint. If I don't click right away, see, I'm actually aligned to that midpoint of that section. I don't know if you can see this. There's a very faint dotted green line, which shows me that my inference is snapped to that point and on the green axis. I'm just going to click on the dotted line and drag up 1 inch. Actually, nope. Let's drag up a 1/2 inch for the door thickness over 30. Down 1 inch, back over 30, and up 1 inch. And there is my door. And I'm going to triple click on it and make it a group. Now I'll delete this guide. And then I'll left select over both the opening and the door, and right click and make component, and we'll call that door pocket 30. So that way, see, if you wanted to move this component into another spot or another model even, see, if I move it from the corner, I have both the opening and the door thickness, and it will just make it easier if I plan to reuse it. Okay, so if we zoom out, you can see that we have all of our doors and our windows represented by 2-dimensional symbols. And the last thing that we are going to do is create a new layer, for our PDF plan. So go over to your layers window and hit the plus sign and call this new layer Plan PDF. And then click on the PDF drawing, and under Entity Info, select Plan PDF. That way you can turn the PDF on and off. So there is our model without the PDF being visible. There's the PDF model again, or PDF layer again. So it makes it really handy because you can save your original PDF so that you have that as a reference, but you don't need to keep it visible. Thank you so much for following along with this tutorial. If you enjoyed it, I would really appreciate it if you gave this video a thumbs up. And I would also love it if you would subscribe to my YouTube channel. You'll be always notified of the latest video tutorials. In addition, you can go over to designstudentsavvy.com and sign up for my free email newsletter so that you get notifications of new blog posts and tutorials right in your inbox. In addition, you'll receive my free PDF guide on choosing the right software program for your interior design business. I give an in-depth comparison of Chief Architect, SketchUp, and Revit based on my personal experiences with all three. Well, thank you so much, and I will see you again next time here on Design Student Savvy.